Hi, I'm attorney Paul Delary. Thanks for coming to our website. And if you're here, it's probably because you're looking for a lawyer or a law firm or some kind of a solution for your problem. So um, you probably have a whole bunch of questions like, what kind of a lawyer do you even need? Uh, Maybe you've talked to friends who said you need a state lawyer or a trust lawyer, or you need a will or probate or asset protection or family lawyer or something like that. And it can all be really confusing. I would be the same thing if I needed to look for a specialist, like a medical specialist or a dental specialist or something like that. Um, so yeah, there is information on the website about kind of the technical stuff about what we do, and the fact is, if you have any question about, whether we're the right ones, or if we can help solve your problem or help you get to where you want to go, just call and we'll be honest. I mean, if we can't help you or if there's a better solution or something like that, we'll let you know. But let me tell you a little bit about who we are, okay? So first of all, I just wanted to kind of mention some of our core values. Okay, so one of our core values is to be ruthlessly optimistic. Now, this is something that, well, I'll be honest with you, I sometimes struggle with this, but like in the area of families and um, just life. I mean, as lawyers, what we are, we're technicians, but really what we do is we help people with life challenges. And sometimes those, well, whatever the challenges are, and they can be daunting. They can raise all kinds of emotions for people. um, and so one of our values is to just always remind ourselves to be optimistic. Now, I don't mean to ignore facts or to to just assume everything's going to be perfect. That wouldn't be a very good lawyer that does that. But on an emotional level, yeah, we can be optimistic. We can look at the details, but also be with you in envisioning a better future. Okay, so that's one of our values. Also, um, we want to be efficient and competent advocates. So efficiency, that's listen, in the law, this there's a tug and pull about this, okay? Um, so on one hand, as lawyers, we're trained and we naturally want to cross every T and dot every I and look at all the details. And there's a lot of judgment calls that we have to make. And so that's partly what we're talking about with with that. We try to, I don't know if I want to say cut corners, but we will tell you, here are your options. We can do a big comprehensive plan, big comprehensive analysis, and we'll cover everything. However, we can also do something that's scaled back, that's going to cover maybe 90% of what you're likely to face, and we can do that for a lesser cost. For example, so that's something we're always thinking about, and that. And then to obviously to do it confidently. So, and we're always taking continuing education classes. I teach continuing education classes, and so we're always trying to be on top of cutting edge and know what we're doing. So okay, now this is something else that we have as an internal core value within our law firm is this actually comes from Native American spirituality, okay? And it's to be committed to health, I'm sorry, happiness, health, let me say that again. Happiness, health, humor, hope, and harmony. Okay, so 5 H's. Happiness, meaning to do things that are, whatever makes us happy, meaning to like be in alignment with who we are. be true to ourselves. Health, we're all in the firm committed to health, and we hope you are too. We think that's important. Humor, you'll see there's little hints of humor kind of everywhere, even on our website. Yes, it looks very serious, but then you have like the glaring Irish cultures. DeLowry is an Irish name, so there's a little bit to that. And my dad, who brought me up, definitely had Irish humor. It's kind of a biting, sarcastic sense of humor. But anyway, so I try to tone that back, obviously. So, but anyway, so feel free. I try to imbue that in our relationship a little bit, so we can have fun, right? Hope. Listen, if you don't have hope, life is really hard, and so part of what we do. And I'll explain, actually, you know what? This ties in with the name of the law firm. So let me talk about that. Sudden wealth protection law. Okay, that's a mouthful, right? The reason I named it that is because I've noticed that most estate planning attorneys, professional advisors, financial planners and whatnot focus on just the bare minimum of getting your money and stuff, assets, transferred from your name to whoever it's going to if you die. Okay, just managing that. And I kind of compare it, there's a story I tell sometimes about, and I made this up, about going shopping for eggs. Okay, so let's imagine that you go to the grocery store and you want to get a dozen eggs. So you go to the egg section and you open the carton and you look at all the eggs. None of them are cracked. They're all fine. Put them in the cart. You go to the checkout counter. You put them in the little flimsy plastic bag that's supposed to hold the eggs, but it does fine. You get them in the car. You drive safely home, and you park in the garage, and just as you're opening the door from the garage to the house, the flimsy plastic bag breaks. Well, that's actually considered a score. That's like a 100, an A plus from an estate planner's standpoint, meaning you got the eggs to the destination you wanted. You got them home. Now, of course, you didn't actually get to use the eggs. So arguably, you didn't get the result that you were actually hoping for. So there's a disconnect. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But there's a disconnect often between what you as an estate planning client want, or probate, or whatever, whatever you're coming to our firm for, between what you want and what most attorneys will give you as the solution. So the hope, the reason for the name of the law firm, Sudden Wealth Protection Law, is that there's been studies about this, and most of the time, roughly 70% of the time that money gets transferred from one generation to the next generation, it gets lost. Okay, it's now some of the things that everyone talks about, probate and taxes, and I guess those are the main two things that people talk about. That's just a small portion of why the money gets lost. Most of the time, it gets lost from family dissension, arguments, conflict within the family, the heirs not being prepared, not knowing what to do with the money. Suddenly they go from $500 in their checking account to whatever, 500,000 in their checking account, and it's a shock to the system. And psychologically, I say it's a trauma. I mean, it's actually a trauma. Okay, you can say how can something good be a trauma? Well, it can be. Okay, a traumatic. Just think about stories you've heard about with professional athletes who've, get millions of dollars and then they're in bankruptcy 3 years later. Like, what? How's that possible? Or people who win the lottery and the majority of the time, or some large percentage of the time, they're not only are they so okay, imagine this. They're at this level, they go to this level with the lottery winnings, and then at some point, like 3 to 5 years later, they're not here. A large portion are not here. They're not here. They're not here, and they're not here. They are here. Can you even imagine? Like they actually go into debt. Like winning the lottery makes someone go into debt where they have to file bankruptcy. So there's a big issue, and it's kind of a taboo among estate planners. Why? Because this is difficult to talk about, and it's not easy. I can't give you a document that's going to solve, just the document by itself that's going to solve this problem. It doesn't have anything to do with a will or a trust or a power of attorney or some agreement or some magical statement that everyone in the family signs. It has to do with family dynamics, and that's why. So it's the reason for the name of the law firm, Sudden Wealth Protection Law, is and I don't want to sound arrogant or pompous here, but I'm trying to explain this honestly. Okay, it's kind of like estate planners are a little bit higher up the hill, and they can see some of the issues. Like you're down here on the hill. Estate planners are up here, and they can kind of look out over the valley and see some of the dangers that you can see. But because of some personal life experiences that I've had and that I've seen my clients go through, I'm a little bit higher up. And I'm not saying I'm better or whatever. It's just that I see some issues that frankly most estate planning attorneys they just either don't see or don't want to talk about or think about or whatever, because again, most estate planning attorneys are transactional. They want to sell you some documents and make you feel good when you walk out of the office with some documents. And I'm telling you that the mistakes that happen to most of the families don't have anything to do with whether you have those documents or not. The mistakes happen from a lot of the other little things that are beyond the documents. Okay. Now, a lot of attorneys, estate planning law firms will talk about this, not transferring assets to the trust. And now something that most estate planning lawyers or law firms don't do is follow up with the clients. So one of the things that we educate our clients about is the need for this follow-up. And it's, I don't know, think about it like doing a 10,000 mile maintenance check for your car. I mean, that's necessary. And just because you buy a brand new car doesn't mean you can just keep filling it up with gas and it's going to run perfectly forever. No, there's maintenance that needs to go along, that needs to happen because things change. In your car, the fan belts give out and the air filter needs changing, and different other things need maintenance. Tires need rotating. In your estate plan, members of your family die or get married or get divorced, or there's a birth or a death, or someone that you named as the trustee or agent in your power of attorney maybe just doesn't make that much sense anymore. And those are just some of the obvious things. And then you're opening and closing bank accounts and maybe buying another house, or you refinance the house and it doesn't get retitled into your trust. And then you meet with your financial advisor, and the financial advisor says, oh, listen, let's name the beneficiaries of your life insurance. Okay, this is life insurance, but the beneficiaries of your life insurance, your kids. Sounds great, right? You die, kids get everything. Well, okay, I'm assuming you're not married. Maybe you don't. If you're married, then it all goes to your wife. Um, so that's two issues there. So let's talk about the kids issue first. So um, your life insurance agent says everything should the beneficiary of your life insurance or the beneficiary of your financial accounts should be your kids. Okay, let's assume that that makes sense and you're not married and you don't want anything or you don't want that account or insurance to go to your wife. Okay, um, is this a good idea? Well, if your children are minors, no, it's a horrible idea because then you're setting them up to need a conservatorship, a court-ordered conservator to be appointed to manage the money or whatever the asset is until the child turns 18. Or maybe you have a child who has mental health issues or is just not good with handling money. Well, there's no safeguard there. Okay, you're just writing a check, um, and that's actually where having a trust comes in, and that's where talking to the estate planning attorney and having the estate planning attorney talk to your life insurance agent. That's where that makes sense to solve problems like this. The other thing is accidental disinheritance of your kids, where you have everything go to your wife or your spouse, and then the spouse gets remarried. So again, here's the hypothetical. So you die, everything goes to your spouse, and then your spouse, and with the idea that your spouse is going to share something or take care of your kids. Well, what if they get remarried? Then they redo that. I mean, I've seen that over and over. So it's really important to get this to have a plan that makes sense. Okay, so 5 minutes ago or something, I started talking about happiness, health, humor, hope, and harmony. Okay, and hope. So what the heck does this have to do with hope? Well, part of what we do is to give you the assurance that things are going to be okay when you pass away. And I, as a lawyer, can't give you that assurance if there's not ongoing maintenance and ongoing reviews of your documents and maintaining a relationship with you. Okay, so it can't be a transaction. Okay, so sorry, I went off in a tangent there. And then harmony, the harmony part is just kind of being in integration with ourselves, I guess, being doing what we say, saying what we do. So everything that we talk about with you, any of our advice is things that we've done ourselves, we've done with other clients, we've seen it work, that kind of thing. Okay, and I was talking about values, and sorry about the tangent, but hopefully that was interesting for you to hear about why our law firm is called Sudden Wealth Protection Laws. It's, again, sudden wealth. If there's a windfall of whatever kind, like an inheritance, and if the heirs are not properly prepared, it can just be a horrible situation, okay? And the money tends to not last very long. Okay, more core values. Taking personal responsibility for our actions with care and compassion, and holding others accountable for their actions with care and compassion. So personal responsibility is just really important. Why is that? Well, without taking personal responsibility, you can't grow. You're kind of waiting for things to happen to you or magically happen for you or something. And you have to take action. So I remember growing up. So I grew up Lutheran, and there's St. Paul used to talk about praying as if everything uh, uh, praying as if everything depended on God, and acting as if everything depended on you. And the magic of those two things, praying as if everything depends on God and acting like everything depends on you, together, that's taking personal responsibility. Like, you have to take action for things to happen. And so let's see. We commit to being fearless because unhealthy fear paralyzes us from taking action that's needed. So yeah, so that's just something. Listen, we're all growing in this world, and we all need to act sometimes in spite of fear, and so that's just one of our values. We value open heart-to-heart communication that's clear, honest, open, respectful, and direct. Uh, the acronym for that is CHORD, CHORD, clear, honest, open, respectful, and direct. Um, so, and we aspire to do that. If you somehow don't feel that one of us is doing that, call us out, and we hope that you will be, take affirmative, assertive communication with us as well. And then we work to always increase our confidence by making choices that lead to being physically and financially strong and powerful. And that's what we want for you and for your family, to increase your confidence by making choices that lead to you and your family being physically and financially strong and powerful. Now, some people may think, well, that's a horrible thing. Financially strong and powerful triggers a lot of people in society, because a lot of people think rich people, let's say, or people with more money than others are evil or bad or take advantage of others or something like that. That's the whole reason that there's pressure to tax people with more money and give it to other people. But actually, that leads to one of our beliefs. So let me talk about some of our beliefs right now. So I believe, and we believe, that having money is necessary to be your best self. If you don't have money, it's really hard to be present when you're trying to parent your minor children, or actually attend a sporting event, or some event that your child's at. If you're worried about money and all that stuff, you're not being your best self, and you're showing fear to your kids, and you're transferring that fear about money to your children, and that then gives them issues that they're going to have to deal with later in life. Now we'll talk about the responsibility part too, okay? Because there's more to this, but and I'm not saying to lavish gifts and money on your kids, okay? That's a different thing. But just having money, you having money, is a good thing. Without it, you can't explore your talents or your interests. Without money, you're less able to help society. You're less able to give to charity. You're less able to save land for wildlife. You're less able to help orphans. All the different things. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to get fixed in this world, or saved, or helped, or whatever. And $5 doesn't help out as much as $5,000 or $50,000 or $5 million. So the more money you have, the more impact, the more positive impact you can have for yourself, for your family, and for the world. And so we strongly believe that to our core. Let's see, I talked about personal responsibility. Here's something else. We believe in the truth. And let me talk about that, because I think a lot of people don't understand this. So there was a book written by, boy, I should have prepared this before doing this video. There was a book written by a professor, and I'm not going to try to misremember the name, but the book was called On Bullshit. Okay, Yes, written by a professor called On Bullshit. Um, and he talks about three different things: truth, lies, and bullshit. So let me explain what that is, because I think a lot of people are confused about this. What's the truth? The truth is what is, okay? The truth is, and I don't have a thermometer here, but let's say it's 79 degrees in the room right now. Okay, that's the truth. It's not my opinion. I can measure it. You can come in here with your own thermometer and you can measure it, and we can validate it. And maybe your thermometer says it's 79.5. Okay, well, so somewhere maybe one of our instruments is wrong, maybe they're both wrong, but somehow the fact is that the temperature is the temperature. Okay, that's not up to negotiation or opinion or argument. The let's see, the humidity, the how much money is in your bank account, how the grade that your child got on an English test. Okay, that's the truth. It's not up for negotiation or opinion or whatever. I mean, it is what it is. Now, a lie is when you know what the truth is and you say something other than that. A lie would be your son comes home from school and you ask how he did on the English test, and he says, "Oh, I got an A." However, he actually got a C. So the C is the truth. Him knowing that he got a C and telling you he got an A, that is a lie. That is an intentional misrepresentation of the person's best understanding of what the truth is. Now, if I've just looked at the thermostat here and it says 79, and you ask me, okay, this is a dumb example. I need to come up with a better example here. Well, I'm going to go with it. Okay, you asked me what the temperature is, and I said, "Oof, it's really hot. It's 85 in here." Well, I just told a lie. Okay, my best understanding of the truth has to do with me just recently looking at the thermostat where it said 79. And yes, I'm in Arizona where we keep our temperature at 79. I know I'm from Minnesota, and if any of my relatives or friends from up there saw that we kept it, well, actually during the summer, I guess you keep the thermostat higher in Minnesota also, so that's not too crazy. So a lie is an intentional misrepresentation of your best understanding of what the truth is. Now, bullshit would be, you ask me what the temperature is, and I just kind of say, 75, or maybe I say 79. Let's say I say 79, but I actually have no idea. Now, that coincidentally happens to be the truth. However, I didn't actually know. So what I said is I gave an answer without even caring about what the truth is. Now, in my experience, and just from my experience, I think people who bullshit, who just say things regardless of, who don't even care about checking what the truth is, that is scarier to me than someone who lies. So someone who lies, at least, once you figure out that they lie, then you can, then to verify it or whatever. And you should always be verifying anyway. But just in my mind, someone who just doesn't even care about what's true or not true, that's that's a whole different level. And there's a lot of people who just say things just to say it. I mean, frankly, politicians do this a lot, where they just say stuff, without, "Oh, we're going to pass this bill that's going to lower, it's going to okay, I don't want to get political here, but it's not going to raise anyone's taxes. It's going to give a bunch of benefits to everyone, and it won't raise taxes. Well, without actually like talking to to the accountants or the people who actually can analyze it and tell you yes or no what's likely to happen, that's just bullshit. And people, a lot of people just don't even recognize the difference between all of this stuff, and they just kind of you know um, base what they believe on who they like, or do they like listening to this person, do they trust that person or whatever because they look nice, or they sure seem confident. Well, that's not a very good way of going through life. And we work with a lot of professionals like dentists and doctors and business owners and whatnot, and any of those people know that knowing the truth is really important. So yes, it's one of our core values. Okay. Um, and another reason for knowing the truth is this. So you come to us because you want help getting to some goal. If it's setting your family up for multi-generational success, or just getting your legal affairs in order, or protecting your assets, or whatever it is. And if we don't drill down to know exactly where you are, then we can't successfully get you to where you want to be. And I would give you this analogy. Let's say that I can give you a map of how to get to, oh, let's see, where might you want to go? Let's say you want to go to Malibu. That's a nice place in California, right? I can get you a map of how to get to Malibu, and say, this is exactly how you get there. And I give it to you. However, if you don't know where you're at, like, or your directions or any of that stuff, I mean, and even if you know your directions, you're not gonna get there. Or like imagine going to the grocery store. Like, I can tell you, okay, this is how you get to the grocery store, but if you're not starting out in the same place, you're going to get to some other random spot. So it's so important to be ruthlessly honest about recognizing the truth of where you're at. Now, this can be difficult sometimes. It's not fun, because some of knowing what the truth is has to do with family dynamics, or your second wife doesn't really get along with your kids, or something like that. And I don't really you don't really maybe want to deal with it or something. But that's the kind of thing that is really important to recognize and just address. Okay, so this stuff isn't always fun, but anyway, it's important to get to where you want to be. So why does this matter for society? I mean, I touched on that a little bit. um, uh, Having strong families matters. Think about the alternative. And frankly, there are elements in our society right now that want to eliminate the family, that are okay with having single parent families, and all of that. And it's not as good. Our country was based on having strong families. I mean, that's like one of the root fundamental elements. Let me explain this from a lawyer's standpoint. Okay, so as a lawyer, I studied the laws. I don't know every single law. No lawyer knows every single law or regulation or whatever, but I know some. And um, with what the law is like it's the lowest, what it's the lowest line below which we don't allow our society to cross, or to go beneath. Meaning, think about some laws. Okay, don't commit murder, don't drunk drive because you could kill someone. Okay, it has to do with like pretty basic stuff like that. Um, so, well, okay, and so on and so on. Obviously, you have to pay taxes. I'm trying to think of examples of laws. Anyway, you can think of some, but most of the time, laws have to do with. I mean, sometimes it has to do with aspirational stuff, but most of it is like they're like the guardrails trying to keep society within some boundaries of some kind. And just let me kind of explain where our society has gone right now. I mean, right now, and I'm recording this in 2022, it's August. There's a push to just ignore laws. I mean, we just went through a couple of years where people could loot and riot and destroy businesses without any recourse whatsoever. And they were actually encouraged by some politicians to do that. Now, they might have had reasons for looting and rioting. I mean, everyone has a reason always for anything they do. No one does anything without a reason. And, let's say it's in the name of racial justice. Well, fine, but, like looting and rioting and hurting people, committing assault, in the name of whatever the rationale is and I'm all in favor of racial justice. Okay, don't get me wrong, but the point is that there's this lowest line like supporting our society together, and we're like just ignoring that now. There's a tendency in certain cities and in certain areas to just ignore the law and defund the police, for example, or let people come into this country without going through the normal immigration process. I'm all for immigration. My second wife was an immigrant from Ukraine. All for it. We did it legally. I think that things should be done in an orderly, legally fashion. That's all. Anyway. So, yeah, I was just talking why this matters. So the law is that, okay, but so let's even assume that we get back to enforcing the law, which would be great in my mind, but still, that's a pretty low, like a low line to be not even aspiring to. That's like just pure basics. Like we can't kill each other. I mean, but from an aspirational standpoint, there are things that families teach their kids that I think it's important. There are values that you have, from living your life. There are values that you have that you probably want to pass on to your kids. And that requires having a family and having a culture that honors your family and protects your family, and having a way then of protecting your family. And so what I do as a lawyer is put things in place that help protect your family as an institution. Now, yes, I do it as a lawyer. I do it from a legal standpoint, and there's some technical things we use with trust and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. But that you need to know that there's a difference between trusts, okay? For example, the trusts that we have integrate the values and the beliefs that I've been talking about. So, for example, the trusts that we do have alternative dispute resolution provisions, meaning that the trust you get from us is going to have a provision in it saying that if there's a dispute in the family, that the people will resolve it by mediation or arbitration and will not be going to court. They're not going to be spending years in court and tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on legal fees. Yes, that happens. Going to court, fighting each other. Um, because we value the family and we want to see the family get together, and a family that resolves an issue through a simpler, more efficient method is more likely to be able to get together the following Thanksgiving for dinner, as opposed to a family that is in litigation and they can't even talk to each other directly. All the communications have to go through lawyers. That family, I mean, that family is broken apart, and it's sad. I've seen it. I've seen it way too many times. So this stuff does matter. And let me talk about your heirs. Why does this matter to your children or whoever is going to be inheriting from you? Let me tell you my own personal story. So in 2009, I inherited my father's $28 million estate. After estate taxes, that was cut in half approximately. And so I went from having like $1,000 in my checking account to having $14 million in my TD Ameritrade account, with no instructions, with no guidance. There's a long story. There's a book, you can get my book on Amazon. It's called Lasting Wealth. Just look it up with my name. But so I won't tell you the whole story there or the backstory, but basically, yeah, I wasn't prepared. And not only like there was nothing. There were no legal documents. There was no will. There was no statement of wishes, or and I hadn't met with my father a little bit prior to this happening, but his health was declining, and we had kind of a clunky relationship. It was awkward. He didn't want to talk about this stuff. I think maybe during the last month of his life, he maybe was trying to convey something to me, but I couldn't hear him. I mean, he was in nursing homes, and whispering, like he literally couldn't speak. And like the way life is in nursing homes with TVs and people talking, I mean, it's like a junior high lunchroom, like so noisy. And like I just there was no way I could have gotten enough quiet to be able to hear his whispers. So the point is, I just was totally unprepared. I got the money. Within 5 years, most of it was gone. I thought I was investing it. Okay, he had built up his money from investing in penny stocks. He invested his military retirement in penny stocks. So I knew that. I knew the amount of money. My stepfather, who raised me, had died when I was 16. Like this was, and I had been missing a father figure in my life. Then I finally met my father. Again, this is all in my book, but I met my father 6 weeks before he died. He died, and and then I had a bunch of money, and it seemed like this sick consolation prize to me. So this is my own personal experience. And let me kind of finish my own personal story, and then I'm going to tie this in with how this relates to a lot of other people, because there is a commonality. So my personal experience was, yeah, I got this windfall, and I felt empty inside. So I wanted to kind of honor his legacy, I guess, the best I could. And I was making this up on the fly. So I thought, well, let me learn how to invest real fast. Well, you can't learn how to invest fast. There's no such thing. But I tried to do it by, and because it was over $1 million, I was an accredited investor. So I didn't have the safeguards that normally have. I just had to sign a little waiver form saying that my net worth was more than $1 million, or my investable assets were more than that. And then investors could just throw all kinds of crap at me. And I tried to save the Carazzi Foundry, the artistic foundry in Naples, Italy, which was a failing business. Should have been a good sign. Anyway, so I threw millions at that. Hold on. I also invested in some oil wells that just weren't profitable. I invested in, spent some money on foreign exchange trading, and it was all just kind of desperate stuff. It was not, it wasn't careful, it wasn't safe. And listen, I wish I had stories about parties on yachts with, you know, scantily clad women or something like that, but it wasn't anything like that. I thought I was investing the money. I wanted to make up the $14 million that I'd lost in estate taxes, or that was my mindset anyway. And the fact is, I wasn't prepared, lost money, made a bunch of bad decisions. And how did that affect me? Well, I was completely embarrassed. I was ashamed. I tried to talk to people, and most of the time when people heard that I had 14 million and lost it, I got things like, I can't believe how stupid you were. I would have never done that. You know, like, you're an idiot. And so I quickly learned to not talk to people. So that wasn't healthy. I made some, I kind of glommed onto some girlfriends, you know, because at least that way I had some kind of a relationship, but they weren't healthy relationships. I wasn't in a good place. I wasn't like ready to be a, you know, good partner. And then about 3 years after this inheritance, I opened my law firm up again. I hadn't addressed core things, like basic things about being prepared for handling money. For example, one of the core things I have since dealt with and learned, but I didn't have a handle on at the time, was just setting boundaries, setting healthy boundaries, being able to say, this is what I need, this is what you need to do, this is acceptable, that's not acceptable, things like that. And like, you know, looking back on it, how in the world was I was trying to manage a business, manage employees when I couldn't set boundaries? I mean, holy cow. And I had lost confidence because of this whole experience. The whole experience of getting money and losing it had just shattered my self-confidence. And that made it even harder for me to set boundaries with other people. Which, I mean, the whole thing just is just this horrible cycle with more shame and avoiding interactions with people. That's got tied in with drinking alcohol. So yeah, I was drinking. Like, it was common to have a bottle of wine a night for a period of time there. And so this was my experience. And I will say that people who get a windfall, whatever amount it is, 50,000, 500,000, whatever it is, for a homeless person, $5,000, you know, could be like a windfall, or $500 might be a windfall. But if you as a person, you get this and you lose it, that doesn't help your confidence, okay? Because who do you tell that to? Most people you tell the story to that I as this homeless person just got $500 and I lost it. The other homeless people are going to call them an idiot. And because in their mind, they have this fantasy that if they got that money, they would never do that. Or, whatever the amount of money is. Everyone imagines that the scenario in their own head, that when they get rich, when they get the windfall, life's going to be perfect and they're going to be flying on private jets and managing all the money, and they're going to be wonderful, and there'll be books written about them, and or whatever the fantasy is or whatever. I'm just telling you that the reality is not like that. And um, you, okay, if you're on this website and if you've gotten this far in this video, then you understand that making money is one thing, but keeping it is a whole different thing, and they're different skill sets. Um, so how do you pass that on to the next generation? And you probably want to pass both, right? Like, um, well, and I guess this is up to you. So, but for me personally, I want to pass both skills on to my kids of how to make money, and uh, with everything tied in with that, that has to do with money beliefs and your own um, sense of self-worth and everything. And then how do you keep the money? And that's a whole, which is again a whole different thing. It's like holding people accountable, the opposite of codependency, the opposite of alcoholism and substance abuse and all of that stuff. Like having a grasp on reality and the situation, taking personal responsibility, and so again, this matters. What we're doing matters for society. It matters for you, because the alternative, it ain't good. The alternative is we don't bother with any of this stuff, and you make money, you give it to your kids, they spend it, and then they're going to be what? Relying on food stamps and government assistance. That's the alternative here. So just put in very, maybe there's no way to say this without getting political, but here goes. So you can hate me or love me. The core reality here is that it has to do with strong people who can take care of themselves versus people who rely on big government. And the second alternative there, I mean, we all know where that goes. You've seen stories about Venezuela and Russia and communist China and dictatorships and that kind of stuff. So that's why this matters. That's why this matters. And it's so if this, I guess if you're on board and if this makes sense, then we would love to work with you. What pisses me off is people avoiding this issue. It's entire industries not wanting to talk about the issues that I've been talking about on this video. I'll just say it. Now, this isn't 100%, but as a generality, the estate planning attorney community, the professional community, avoids the issue of how to successfully transfer money, wealth, assets, values, family history, knowledge from one generation to the next, because it's difficult. And it's easier to sell you on a trust package, and we'll draft the documents. You come in, you sign it, we give you the documents, and you feel warm and fuzzy inside, thinking that everything's done right. I hope I've shared with you like what happened with me. Even if my father had a will or a trust, I would have still blown the money. Because I wasn't prepared, okay? And I didn't have good communication with him, and I didn't have a sense of what the money stood for or the values, and we didn't have a plan together. Like none of that foundational stuff was put in place. And this is so important. I mean, I was in a depression for years. I lost years of my life. Yes, inheriting money taught me some valuable lessons. But man, I sure wish I could get those 5 or 10 years of my life back. And so that's, what's that worth? and another thing that ticks me off is professional advisors that don't talk to each other, and clients, frankly, clients who don't understand the importance of everyone working collaboratively, because mistakes happen. Again, wealth is not lost because you do or don't have a trust. It can be, but the majority of the time, an entire inheritance gets lost, not because of a trust or no trust or whatever, or a will or no will. It gets lost because of all this, just all the other mistakes that happen, like the okay situation from 2 years ago. I represented two grandchildren, and the grandmother wanted her assets to go to the two grandchildren. Why was that? Well, because the grandson had some substance abuse issues, and so grandma went to the estate attorney and redid the trust, or redid the, I think it was a trust, and had everything go to the grandchildren, but didn't take the next step of working with the bank and the financial advisor of retitling the assets or changing the beneficiaries. So what happened? Grandma went to the estate attorney, did the documents, thought everything was great, walked out of the office, like confidently. Meanwhile, the accounts were titled to the son with the substance abuse. So in spite of having a trust or the will, the grandma's wishes were not honored. Now we actually sued the attorney for successfully. God, I forget, is it $400,000 or $500,000 judgment? And the malpractice carrier paid, but because the next step didn't happen. Basically, because the attorney and the financial advisor and the bank and the client didn't tie up this important loose end. And we see this over and over. So it's really important to like listen to your estate attorney and follow up and find someone, please, even if it's not us, find someone who's going to follow up and make sure that the details happen. Okay, it's so crucially important. Let's see. I wanted to just tell you another story, just super fast, about a family that I worked with recently. They have a company that makes tens of millions of dollars a year. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. And they came to us because they had an estate attorney. They had the trust. They had actually multiple trusts and LLCs and all that kind of stuff. Why did they come to our firm? Because there were relationship problems in the family. And so we actually helped them through some of the relationship issues. Now, we're not psychologists, but that we do have experience with this kind of a thing, and we help them. Actually, we help them create a code of honor and started a family constitution and started the process of like getting the generations, multiple generations, to work together to move forward into the future. And so let me just end with one little thing that makes us different. I recognize that, again, successful wealth transfer to the next generation requires working with the generations. Okay, now the estate planning attorneys typically don't want to do that. I mean, the ethics rules for attorneys say that we need to pick our client, mom and dad, you and your spouse, and we can't talk to your kids. We can't communicate anything. Everything's confidential, hush hush, all that kind of stuff. And so the typical pattern is you come to the estate planning attorney, sign the documents, you walk out of the office, and that's it. And like I've said multiple times on this video, That's not the reason that wealth gets lost by the next generation. The reason wealth gets lost is the next generation not being prepared, not having good communication and trust between the generations, not having a common understanding, not having common goals, a common vision. You and your kids and your grandkids collaboratively working together with a common vision. There is a disconnect. There's a disconnect between the way most estate planning attorneys work and the reality of what's necessary to successfully transfer things to the next generation. So there are ways around it. I mean, what we ended up doing with the one family I was talking about is we had the parents and the kids sign waivers of conflict. So we could actually communicate. We actually had joint meetings with everyone, and here's how are we going to solve this, and who are going to be the trustees of this trust, and how are you all going to make decisions, and is it going to be like a joint trust or a little sub trust, or and thinking through all the little details. But we didn't do that just behind closed doors with only mom and dad. We did that with the family. So they because they saw the issue. Why did they see the issue? Because the kids had kids, and they saw that if they didn't put these things in place, by the time money or things got to the third generation, and the kids or the cousins, I'm sorry, the grandchildren or the cousins weren't working together, or that there wasn't a system in place, it was just going to be a complete mess. And so in that case, I guess the thing that really pushed them was they had a business, a really successful business that they wanted to keep in the family. And that just, that takes things to another level, where you need to have more than just a trust and some legal documents and whatnot. You need to have like a whole lot of systems in place. So listen, thanks for watching this video. And if any of this rings true with you, we'd sure like to work with you. So yeah, just get in touch with us, and we're really trying to spread the word. So it's really important to us, again, to protect the next generation. Okay, it's not just giving them money, because that's what estate planning attorneys focus on, is the money and the houses and the assets. But it's more than that. It's your legacy. It's what you stand for. It's your whole life's learning and life's lessons that somehow you want to pass on. And there's ways to do that. There's ways to integrate it into the legal documents, where it's actually more than just the legal documents. But so we have a community of clients, and we work together with this, and it's it's an ongoing process. So if this seems like something that you'd like to do, and you'd like to start the journey for your family on a multi-generational track of success, I would sure like us to be part of that story. So get in touch. Thanks.